So here we are going to talk about why do people show up to your webinar and still say no to at the pitch, right? So you have the webinar, you explain things, and you even have a warm audience. They are not really strangers. There's some work that has been done on them. And despite that, they still say no to your pitch, or your conversion rate is really low, right? What could have been happening around that particular time? So in this very webinar, we'll address the issue of conversion, in line with your webinars. Let me put it in full screen. I think that will help. All right. So this is for the coach whose webinar goes well and still doesn't convert. So you're already earning $5,000 plus a month. And by this stage of the offer, right, itself, it has usually already worked, right, repeatedly for real clients. So whatever you sell now, you've already sold some in the past. It's not as though you've not sold some, even with the webinars, but looking at increased conversion, right? Maybe you have 100 people turning out for the webinar, and often 5 of them just by how can we move it to 10? How can we move it to even 15 without even increasing your content or your webinar frequency, right? This is what we're about to address here. So your webinar runs well. So your webinar runs well, solid attendance, active chat, real engagement all the way through, right? That's what you hear. And then the pitch happens, the room goes quiet in a different way, polite, distance, and move, right? So I think all of us have been there some way, somehow, right? Have been there. You pitch, everything is just nice, but there's just this silence. There's just this. They are not saying, hey, you're a scam. Oh, come on, you are deceiving us. They're not saying any of those things, but there's just this polite, distant, and unmoved silence, right? What's happening over there? And then you already tested pricing, bonuses, and pitch length, and the close rate hasn't moved. So it's clearly has been on observation, and you try to do many things. You try to have maybe different pricing, bonuses, a pitch length. You try to modify a lot of things around your offer, but still nothing has changed. And then you suspect that the offer isn't the problem, but you just can't name exactly what the problem is. And sometimes, or you end up even naming the wrong problem or putting it on cultural traits, right? Oh, Ghanaians are like that. Oh, Nigerians are like that. Oh, Indians are like that, or right, people in Kansas City are like that, people in Brussels are like that, right? People in the Netherlands are like that. They act like this, like those type of things. But sometimes I'm personally very slow to move to those type of assumption. I rather keep my mind open and go like, so let's say what they even say about that audience is true. What's the way to go around this? Or we just accept that they are just like that? I will not want to accept that they are just like that. We will want to find ways to understand what's wrong and clearly fix those things. All right, so we're going to solve this in a series, right? In a very strategic way throughout this webinar to chronologically address every single reason why the conversion is not happening the way you want it, and then provide a solution. So the first thing we're going to look at is why one webinar attendees still say no to the pitch, right? The clear problem behind this whole thing. And then 2, why a better offer or bigger bonus won't fix your close rate, right? 3, the belief bridge. This is a framework, a trademark framework that we have at the Growth Masters Consult, right? And then here we address the 3 silent objections killing your pitch. So you see exactly what we are talking about here. And then 4, audit your last webinar script for the belief you never addressed. That's, we want to look at your last webinar and clearly see what we are talking about here, clearly see what's wrong. No, so we will not just name it. You have some exercises that you do through this webinar. This is not your normal YouTube video where you are just being given some capsules or some drug quickly to just have a form of relief and move on and go back to your problems. No, if you are serious about a change, about transformation, this webinar will be your answer. And then how one 5-minute segment double a webinar's close rate. That's powerful, right? Says why naming your problems, your audience doubts out loud isn't as risky as it feels. So you clearly understand why we have something like that. Seven, the pre-pitch checklist that removes objection before you ask. And then eight, so why did they say no? And what changes next? Right, to answer it in a very simple way down there. All right, part one. So why one webinar attendees still say no to the other pitch? And if you are watching this part of the webinar series, make sure you watch the full webinar, right? And also watch other parts in this series. So by now, you definitely know that it's not the offer. So what exactly it is? So knowledge was transferred, trust may have been built, and nothing moved. So what you observe is that at the pitch time, there's no felt urgency, right? Just more knowledge sitting on top of the same unresolved doubts. So there's something that has not been addressed. Some beliefs, some assumptions, some at the core of it, very very strong assumptions, right? That have not been addressed. Some very strong beliefs that have not been addressed by the audience. So the room may be warm, right? The entire room may be, even excited about what you are saying, right? But if those beliefs are not being addressed, they are like the foundation of that particular house that's represent the knowledge. The knowledge may seem to be rising, increasing, and looking beautiful, right? But some way, somehow, what you expect that knowledge to do or to produce will not be produced just because the foundation, which is the belief, has not been addressed at the core. So what then do you need to do at this particular moment? All right, so let's just see practically how this works, right? So we are dealing, the key word here is belief. Belief is what's usually missing. Beliefs, some wrong beliefs or some beliefs that are detrimental to your business or to what you're offering to them are usually not addressed. So here you are going to see how belief is dealt with in two different ways and the results that come with it. So round A, right, on webinar number A, so no belief addressed, right? So you have strong content is really good, warm room, pitch as usual, and then flat. Nothing has changed. So the close rate remains unchanged, right? Unchanged. For months, nothing has really increased. People are not buying more. Like, even if you do another webinar, increase the bonus and anything, nothing really happens. It just remains the same in terms of conversion. And then the second case, right? In the second case, something different happens here. There are many beliefs that can cause, stagnation in conversion. But then you decide, okay, you are going to name one belief and address it. So the same content, and then you do something that we'll explain later, a 5-minute segment added before the pitch. There's something special about that segment, and we'll talk about it later. So what ends up happening is that you 2x or you double, right, the close rate across the next 2 live runs or the next 2 webinars, and then nothing else change. So you never change your price, you never change your bonus, you never change anything related to the offer, but just that 5-minute segment addressing the belief or a belief that's been named through that 5-minute segment changes everything completely. And one key attribute of what we do at the Growth Masters is that we are not always quick to make you to serve you more content, right? We really want to fix what's already wrong with the existing content before we talk about more content, because many people assume, particularly when you have had some results, many people assume that everything about their content is already great, is already fine, and they just need to do more. And sometimes it's not even about the graphics, the audio, the visuals, and the visible stuff, but the scripts, right? The things that are supposed to make for a converting offer are usually missing or are not really upgraded to the level of expected results. So increase in visibility or increase in content output doesn't reflect in conversion most of the time. So much of this series addresses this core issue. All right, so a quick exercise I want to run, right, quickly, right, before you go further into the video. This is a practical session. This is a practical. If you just want to watch something that will just excite you, bring you some new knowledge, spark some dopamine in your mind, this is not a video for that. But if you really are more serious about like addressing what's wrong with your webinar strategy and doubling your conversion rate, this is it. Very practical, very much addressing your issue. So the first thing you want to do, so before you touch the offer, find the real leak. So here we help you. We know that this is a belief issue. Now we want you to see it in your own eyes, in your own content. So you want to rewatch your last webinar or sales call. That's what you want to do. You want to rewatch it. And then specifically the 10 minutes right before the pitch begins. So if it doesn't look like you can watch the whole thing, do watch at least the 10 minutes before the pitch begins, before you bring in your offer, right? And then two, look for a moment that names a belief, not a benefit. So there are beliefs, and beliefs are um, things that you know that in this case, there are things that you know that your audience hold on to, your audience identifies with, your audience considers as part of what they have or who they are or what they can do, right? It is in their mind. And you want to know where they want to look for a moment that names a belief, not a benefit. And then a benefit restates the outcome. That's what the benefit does. The benefit just restate the outcome. So, oh yeah, by the time you are with this product, with our service and everything, we are going to help you gain help you gain 12 kilogram of weight, or maybe 12 pounds of weight, or maybe lose weight by X amount, right? That kind of thing. You can reset in the different ways. That's what benefit usually do. And then a belief removal moment names the doubt. So what usually happens when you're trying to remove a belief is that you clearly say the doubts are like negative beliefs, right? For you, but for them it may be a good thing, right? But doubts are usually the negative beliefs, things that you really need to address to make sure you convert that sale. And then three, if that moment doesn't exist, I mean the moment where you address a belief, right? Not just a benefit. Because sometimes the webinar will be full of addressing benefit without never addressing belief. Right. So three, if that moment doesn't exist, that's your actual gap. So if there's no moment in the webinar where it seems like where you are clearly naming a belief and addressing it, right? That's where you know that there's a gap. That's the reason why you have that weird silence, that unnamed no, right? That feels like, okay, these people understand what I'm saying, but it seems like they're not ready to give me their money. All right. So part two, why a better offer or bigger bonus won't face your close rates. This is the painful part, and it's very important to understand why we seem to always go that way when we are not having our webinar offers being accepted. All right, so if you are watching this part of your series, make sure you do watch your other videos in this particular webinar series, or watch your entire webinar to fully understand why your webinar is not converting. So the offer side. So the first thing that usually people see when they feel like their webinars are not converting is they think that, oh, my price is too high, let me reduce it, or maybe I need to add more bonus, or maybe I need to add more guarantees, right? They try to work around the offer, right? So real ad spend funds attendees who never convert, and the pitch gets softer each time. That's the funny thing. So you can be on this, like for example, I'm on a series of 8 webinars. You can realize that, oh, from webinar 1, they didn't convert that much. And then you try to reduce your price again in webinar 2. You reduce it further in webinar 3, believing that that's a real thing. But there are things that must be considered first before that happens. So 3 variables are usually tested. So price, bonuses, and pitch length can all move, and close rate stays flat. So you can change all those things and nothing will happen, because none of them were really the actual variable holding the attendee back. So you probably thought that this was what was going to solve it, but at the core of it, you just didn't address the right thing. That was your problem. So until that is addressed, even if you decide to bring it completely free, and that's crazy, like that's a bit like that's kind of insane in the sense that you will have thought that cheaper prices attract people, right? And sometimes this is the reason why many coaches do stay stuck, right? Because you are just over and over reducing prices to make the risk lower for people, right? And also giving yourself more work. But if you take the approach of dealing with the belief, which is usually the problem, right? The belief that is the naming a belief that's holding them, which we can find. We talk about how you can find them. If you deal with that, you end up having more bookings at the same price or even at a higher price. And then not have so much work to do personally. So this is where we want to bring you to in this webinar. So close rate stays flat no matter how many offer variables get adjusted, right? Unfortunately. So they tell that you are in this trap. So you've changed bonuses, prices, and pay structure more than once and close rate barely move. That's not an offer problem. Offers that move don't behave like that. Truly. Like if the offer was actually the problem, you will not need to do so much like this. Right. So the feast isn't a better close. So an identity, urgency, or risk belief left unaddressed. This is a sneak peek into the real problem. So an identity, urgency, or risk belief left unaddressed blocks a yes, regardless of how strong the offer is. The fix has to happen before the ask, not inside it. Right? You will see that further in this webinar. So a quick work again that you want to do here. So apply it now. Stop adjusting offer variables before you post again. So first thing you want to do first action you want to do practically to start facing the problem in your business right now. Yeah. So the first thing you want to do is to pause any plan, price, or bonus change for 48 hours. Maybe you are looking into this because your webinar is in 2 days or 3 days or in the next week, and you already thought that, oh, the next solution is to actually change my offer again. So you want to put that on hold, right? Or or put the whole webinar on hold or long enough to break the influence of treating this as an offer problem. So if you are still battling your mind that is an offer problem, that your prices are too high, right? They may be high, but that's not really what you want to address first. Right? There's an order to this. If you are still thinking you need to improve something around the price and everything after running those webinars over and over and never only considering that there is a belief dysfunction somewhere, you want to pause it for as long as possible. The second thing is that you want to list every offer side change made in the last 6 months. So price changes, bonus changes, urgency deadlines, price length, all of it that you ever did. Right? As much as you can remember, just try and put them down. And I think practically the whole goal of this session is to help you fully understand and fully agree with the fact that you are not dealing with an offer problem or a price problem or a bonus problem or urgency problem. You're not dealing with all those things. What you are dealing with here is a belief dysfunction, right? Or a belief problem. So three, check whether close rate move meaningfully with any of them. So that's a sincere diagnostics. Because we could tell you that the problem is this and that, but when your own numbers do tell you the truth or do show you what we're actually talking about, I think it actually helps. And what we do that because we want you to have enough change or enough change stamina. Because sometimes people know the problem, but they don't have enough stamina to actually carry out the solution or to actually stop doing the wrong thing. But when the pain is fully understood, when the pain or the error fully sinks in, I think it gives more stamina to actually make a proper change or a lasting change. All right, so the belief breach, the belief breach. So the three silent objections killing your pitch. And here we're going to see clearly those beliefs and what's happening in the most beautiful way. So if you are watching this webinar for the first time, this part of the series, make sure that you watch the other episodes in it and watch the full webinar to fully understand why your webinar is not converting. All right, so from attendee to client, we want people to actually come as attendee and end up as client, right? You are not doing it for free, right? Just waste time. You have a goal. So what's really hindering the conversion? So here you will see there are three silent beliefs stand between a warm attendee and then a yes. Three of them, right? But the first one is identity belief. So it has to do with this works, but not for people like me. So they are dealing here. Here you are hearing the voice of the identity. There is a dysfunction in the identity belief or conception when it comes to your product or your service. And then the second one that you will see is that the urgency belief. Some will somehow believe that, oh, I could figure this out myself eventually. So, I mean, why should I try to pay X amount of money to a certain coach or consultant? And then the third one is the risk belief, right? So they are falling feels riskier than staying stuck. And you hardly believe that, like, as a coach who has heard the pain of people in this particular space over and over, you hardly believe that, oh, somebody can genuinely think that them trying to solve it, right, and it not working is better, or is, or how they call it, is worse than them staying in that particular situation. And that's human beings for you. So they themselves may not even, like, they may not even have named it like, oh, I have an identity belief problem. I have an identity belief problem. I have a risk belief problem. But by the time you listen to them, by the time you take feedback from why they usually say no, right? Sometimes they don't even know clearly why they even say no. Is all those things are processed subconsciously. So you really want to be conscious of that. So let one address any of these three beliefs or any of these three silence blocks and block the yes, right? No matter how strong the offer is. So when you look at this very well, you can clearly see that even if you bring the price down, right? And the person has their own identity, nothing will change. And you will not even get them. So the unfortunate thing that even happens is you can bring your price down, right? And some way somehow get sales. But the people don't show up for the training. They don't show up for the meetings. They don't take part in the assignments, in the exercise, in the sessions. And you wonder, like, okay, but you did pay for this thing. Why are you not taking it seriously? They did pay money, but it's a different thing to also pay attention. It takes a whole different thing for people to actually give money, also decide to give the attention supposed to give to the whole thing. And most of the time, if the underlying beliefs have not been addressed, it doesn't matter how down the price is, they may pay it, but they will never take the what you are doing as seriously as you want to. And that's even more insulting personally as a coach to see that happening. So let's go deeper into them a little bit. So the belief breach, right? The belief breach. Identity and urgency. Well, these are the first two beliefs. So identity belief. So here you will see that this works for people. No, this works for people. That's what they are thinking. This works for people, right? But not people like me. So they don't disagree with your product. That's where that silence comes from. So they don't disagree with that product, whatever you are selling, but they also somewhere somehow agree with the fact that it's not only for people like them. And maybe out of respect or out of politeness, some of them don't leave the call during the webinar. So this also accounts for attendance drops. So they agree with what you are saying, but again, they don't believe it's for people like them. So the attendee accept the method is sound, but has quietly exempted themselves from it. So they be their industry, for maybe they exempted themselves based on, oh, it works for people in the hospitality industry, but those in manufacturing, it doesn't work for us. Oh, great. So I'm out of here. Personality. Oh, okay. I'm more of an introvert, right? This thing is more for extroverted people. Boom, out of the webinar, or they stay there by out of respect. And then past 3 years. Oh, okay. 2 years ago, I did this. 3 years ago, I did this. Last month, I tried this. Didn't work. Out of respect, they stay. Some of them leave completely, right? And then starting point, they look at it and they go like, do I only have time to commit to this? Right? It's not only for somebody like me. I don't have that kind of time right now. So nothing in the pitch resolve this on its own. And that's what we usually see in many consultants like pitches, right? Nothing only that they say in their pitch actually addresses that. And one thing that we do is to actually help you write your webinar pitch. I think that is to actually incorporate those things intentionally, because when it's not done, right, you just end up, I'm feeling more frustrated because what haven't you tried truly? You try so much. Okay, I want to make this more visible. All right. So the urgency belief. So this is what they're thinking, right? I could probably figure this out myself eventually. And that's for quite a number of people, right? So the attendee doesn't doubt the value. That's the key thing. Again, they are not saying no to you. If you start understanding that they are not actually saying no to anything that you are saying, they're actually okay with it. It's not exactly what you are saying. Now, the attendee doesn't doubt the value, right? They believe the timeline can be self-directed. So rather than learning on your timeline or learning with you, they believe that, okay, I can actually do this myself. right? So without a real specific cost of waiting, this survives even a persuasive pitch. So if you don't show them, okay, you need to address this now, and even with aided help, not just now. Now not just now, not just now, right? Aided hands, like somebody aiding them to address it now. If it's not shown to them that way, they will just believe that, okay, why they need to take it that way? They'll just be like, okay, I can just do it on my own, and I can just do it on my own timeline, and myself, right? So you will not really want something like that happening. That doesn't help. If something like that is happening and it's not really addressed, doesn't matter how many bonuses you do add or remove or how low the price gets, nothing will really move them. And then there is belief. So the quietest and the most common of the three. So what it sounds like, the risk belief. So the risk of trying and failing feels bigger than the risk of staying back. Think about that. And this is the strangest one. The risk of trying and failing, risk of trying and failing feels bigger than the risk of staying stuck. So there are some ways somehow for for a business owner, for a coach in particular, we have to believe that people actually think like that. But that's human beings for you. They actually do think like that. And you must be okay understand that they actually do think like that. Somebody is more comfortable in that pain and is willing to stay in that pain more than trying and failing. I mean, you will have even assumed that it's better to try and fail and then even try again and even fail and then eventually succeed. But people will actually go with the option of if it's going to lead me to be uncomfortable beyond what I'm able to bear, right? Below what I'm able to bear currently, I'll just not do that. And that's so sad. So staying where they are feels safe. Feels safe by default. So simply because it is familiar, right? That's a human being for you. Familiarity, comfort zone, right? So even when it's genuinely costing them, that's a this one is the biggest, I think. This one is the biggest. That explains why many things in society run the way they run. That evil or the wrong things can be going on for a while and everybody seems to just be okay with it and nobody really wants to make a change. So why is that as a strong offer and office? So nothing about a strong offer automatically outweighs this feeling. It's a heavy feeling, truly, and it is emotionally strong because it deals with the person has literally measured pain. And for human beings, pain is a bigger motivator than profit or than even growth. Fear, overall, fear is a bigger motivator for most of humanity than faith. Right? That's the world in which we live. So it has to be named. That particular issue, this issue has to be named and reframed directly. Or it should keep quietly winning the exact moment the ask arrives. So if you don't address it, if you don't really, if you don't even accept it as a coach that this is actually something going on in the mind of your viewers or the mind of your ICP or your attendees, you can't even address it. But this is a real thing going on in their mind right now. All right, so the belief bridge at a glance. So identity, not for people like me. That's what they see over there. Urgency, I will get it. Okay, I'll get to it eventually. So there's no reason to really rush. And then risk, stack feels safer than from falling or than failing. Right, so audit your last, so part four, audit your last webinar script for the one belief you never addressed. So you want to really audit your last webinar, how do I put it? Script for that one belief that you never addressed. All right. So one moment. So review for one thing. That's what you really want to do over here. All right, so this was something you want to do, right? About your last webinar. So one moment, review for one thing was, with identity, urgency, or risk belief, ever explicitly. So let's go into this further. I'll not talk about it here. All right, so this audit works because it isolates one specific missing moment. What is it? A pass through your own script or recording, checking for one exact thing. A standalone moment before the pitch where a belief is named out loud, not just implied. So there must be a moment in your webinar where that belief is named, not just implied, right? And even addressed, truly. So the common failure, what makes this audit useless and pointless for people? So that when you are doing it, you just make sure you get it right. Assuming the belief is being handled because it is implied somewhere in the pitch. Imply isn't named. So the first here is that if you can't point out to the sentence, is not there. So sometimes you will see that okay, you quickly right, you quickly uh referred or imply the belief. But then there's a difference between implying and naming it. When I say something like, somebody is thinking this is not for them, and then you just continue. Right? This is imply. But when you say something like, this has nothing to do with just X industry, whether you are in Y, Z, D, E, F, S industry, this is for you. And then you elaborate further in that. At that moment, you move from implying the identity or the issue, right, or the belief to actually naming it. So these are two different things. So naming means that there has been a clear addressing of it. And we mentioned like for like 5 minutes you're on it. It's impossible, even if they were distracted and they are still considering themselves as part of the webinar, within those 5 minutes, they must have heard something that helps them know that, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do in at this particular time. So we have this reflection worksheet to help you. Just go through it. By the time you go through it, will help you get it done. So, okay. The first thing is that which of the three beliefs, identity, urgency, or risk, do I most often hear echoed in objections? So you know by now you should, if you've done this for a while in terms of webinar, you should know the type of objection people usually give for your pitch, right? And if you don't have that, you can just ask people that don't buy. Okay, uh why are you not buying the X, Y, and Z? So they will say different things. But while analyzing them, you'll be able to classify them. Okay, this is a belief issue. Okay, this is an identity issue. This is an urgency belief here. This is a risk belief here. So which one of them is the most predominant in it? Every market will have one that dominates the most. If you ask 10 people, you see maybe 5 or 4 in the area of identity belief as a blocker. So that becomes what now you focus on. And then two, where in my current pitch, if anywhere, do I explicitly name and dismantle a belief before asking for the sale? So that's also something that you want to know. It should help you clearly know whether you are doing whether your pitch as it is there does address clearly the belief over here. And then three, what have past non-buyers actually told me in their own words about why they said no? So what our past non-buyers actually told me in their own words about why they said no. And that's what I said earlier there. Therefore, am I addressing the belief before the offer or blending it into the offer where it is easy to miss? So sometimes because the offer seems to be the thing that we know as what's supposed to happen in our webinar. So we do end up trying to blend the offer with dealing with those objections, those beliefs. And sometimes it's just not right. It's just not right. Because there's a natural feeling of, okay, you are saying this because you are trying to sell. And the offer is not the only thing that you are selling. Truly, if the webinar is long enough, there are things that you do say that you are selling. Not just whenever somebody is speaking or saying something and trying to communicate something or convince somebody, they are selling their ideas to them. So I've said many things here. What I said in this webinar just doesn't apply to content. But by me teaching, I'm selling my ideas to you. I'm selling my way of thinking to you. And you can decide to buy or not buy. But when you just so that what happens is that when you do tie your offer, right, when you tie your offer to to that part where you are dealing with the beliefs, it seems like you are just trying to say this because you want to make the sale. And human beings are very interesting. When you start realizing those things, it becomes repulsive to them. And then the fifth point of the audit is, what's the one sentence that will make my exact audience feel truly seen before I ever pitch them? So when you know the belief, to know that thing that holding it, you can now start thinking about what can I tell them based on what I know about them. A sentence that will actually get them to understand what we are doing over here. So this is also practical. This is a case study. So how one 5 minute segment double a webinar close rates. So a strong offer, consistent attendance, and a close rate that hadn't moved in months despite testing prices, bonuses, and page. That's the story of this particular case. All right, so let's go into it. A recurring webinar, steady attendance. So one segment added, nothing else changed. So how does it play out in a visual way? So 5 minute segment length, right? That is segment length, and they're added directly to the pitch. And then what ends up happening is that you have here a 2x close rate. Right? Close rate increases by 100% of like by two multiples. Just by adding that 5 minutes portion of the script to the script. And that happens not just in this webinar, but it keeps happening every webinar that the change has been made. So again, it does happen without any other change being made. No change to the pricing, no change to the length or the bonuses. All stays the same. So quickly, let's look at the before and after scenario. So before, in terms of belief removal moment, before there was none in the script. No part of the script was intentionally addressing or trying to remove a belief. But after, what ends up happening is that there is a 1 minute segment before the pitch that's actually included in the script. And then in terms of prices, bonuses, and pitch length. So before it was tested repeatedly, so changed many times. This one is added this time around. This one is removed. Changes are happening every time in terms of prices, bonuses, and pitch length. But after, nothing is changing, right? These things are left completely unchanged. And then the close rate. So it seems like it is flat. It's flat for months, right? In the case of those of prices and bonuses and length, right? The close rate seems to not have changed. But what we end up seeing is that after the 5 minute video or the 5 minute segment has been added to the script, it has roughly double across 2 live runs. And that's the beautiful thing that you see here. And then in terms of attendee feedback in the question and answer section. So it used to be rare, generic, but after the 5 minute segment addressing, dealing with the belief has been added, all you start hearing is that we hear things like, oh, that part made me realize that this was for me, or this works for me, or this is really what I want. So there is a deeper connection, right? You can be watching something and never really feel like it's for you. And what ended up happening is that, so you hear things like, oh, that part made me realize that this was actually for me. And people can be there following you and moving around and kind of stay coming with you for a while, but it should take some things for them to realize that, okay, this is actually for me. It should take them some things. So an attendee referencing the 5 minute segment. That's what you heard. All right, so part 6. Here we're going to address, we always do this in every webinar. We're going to address why somebody may have a hard time applying those changes. So why naming your audience doubts out loud feels too risky, and why it actually isn't, right? So knowing the framework and saying it out loud are 2 different battles. That's the truth of it. Alright, so the first thing that we usually see with many coaches, right, is that there is a fear of sounding confrontational. So what does it look like? So naming what an attendee is privately thinking, especially an insecurity or doubt, can feel presumptuous, right, or risky to say out loud in front of a group. So you know that, okay, you really know that they're actually thinking like that, and you have data. You did run the audit that we said you should run, and you know that, okay, most of the time this is what they are thinking. And in fact, you even some of them who gave you that feedback are still in that meeting. So you saying it that this is what you guys are thinking and saying it in a bold and very clear way, no disrespect, right? It may sound confrontational, but that's not supposed to be that way. And sometimes it's how we see those things. So how should we see it? So naming the private, this is a counter tactic. So naming the private a private belief accurately is almost always experienced as being deeply understood rather than challenged. So it builds trust faster than reassurance alone. That's really matter. So when you name that belief that they have, those who have their heart in the right place. And that's very important because some people may get offended truly. That you heard them, you gave to ask them the question, why have you to buy? And they tell you the reason. And then you now come in public and come and say, some of you here think that this is what's supposed to be done. I mean, you don't, so they may feel attacked. Some people may feel that, but most of the time, right? That's just maybe like 1 out of 10 people. But for the vast majority, they will feel like, okay, this guy actually understands us. And beyond even the set of people that you already asked a question to, and that help you know the exact belief that they are battling with. There will be new people that you've not asked or people that you never asked. Those people will really, really appreciate it, really feel understood in you naming the belief. So and then so let's go to the other reason why some coaches will not. I mean, we know this framework, we know what to do, and they will not do it. They may feel like, oh, what if naming the belief feels manipulative? And that's a genuine concern. So what does it look like? So some coaches worry that deliberately addressing a specific psychological belief crosses a line into manipulation rather than honest communication. And yeah, it may feel like a genuine thing, but the truth of the matter is you are helping them. That's the first thing I would say before I even mention the counter tactic. If you are saying something genuine, something that will move their life forward, and you know that this is what they are thinking, and you are not able to address it, and you let them go, continuing their pain, I think that's way worse than you feeling that it's being manipulative. So naming a true, so there was a counter tactic. So you want to name a true common belief and offering a genuine reframe respect to audience intelligence. So manufacturing false urgency does not. The two are not the same ad. So if you are saying something that is not true, something that they don't believe, and you are trying to actually make it look as though this is what they believe, that's a different thing. But if that is what they're actually going through, I mean, naming it is a sign of genuine concern, and actually, I mean, it doesn't disrespect their intelligence. They will know if you are trying to fake it anyway. So if you are not faking it, they also know truly. So Fable, you just have to go and get it done. All right. So this there are also debatives, right? Some times where a coach may feel like they have some special cases, and yeah, they are actually honest assumptions. So what if my audience has more than one dominant belief? So usually what you will see is that usually one is dominant for a given audience and offer. So address that one clearly rather than diluting all three into a single segment. So again, it's a 5 minute segment that you use to address those beliefs. So you know the belief. Don't try to address what you think as two beliefs in 5 minutes or in 10 minutes. No, just 5 minutes, right? One belief that dominates. If there is no one that dominates, pick one that you know that dominates. You can tell that this was actually going on. Of course, based on the interaction that you've had, and you focus on it, you address it within the 5 minute segment. So what if I don't know which belief is dominant? So you want to ask past numbers directly in their own words why they say no, and the pattern usually surfaces within a handful of honest answers. Truly, you will know that. And then what if the offer really is a problem this time? So this chapter assumes a sound offer, which is true by $5,000 per month. So I mean the webinar is originally made for people that are making at least $5,000 in a month. So you already have an offer that kind of works. Right? That's how come you've made some sales. If pricing of value genuinely doesn't hold up, face that first. As you actually want to face that first. If you think that beliefs, but again, address the belief thing. So belief removal won't rescue a broken offer. That is really matter. But again, make sure you've really addressed the belief matter. All right. So this is something that you can do. Part 7, the pre-pitch checklist that removes objections before you ask for a sale. So here we are talking about two checks. Run before every furniture, every future pitch. Keep belief removal from being left to chance instead of built in deliberately. All right. So this here will help you like quickly know before you have any webinar whether you are going to fall into the same trap or save yourself from it. So the pre-pitch checklist. 1. Which specific belief is this webinar or call addressing? Which specific belief is this webinar or call addressing? So so sometimes it also has to do be within identity, urgency, and risk. So you want to name the one that's dominant for this exact audience. 2, does that moment happen clearly before the ask? So not folded into the offer explanation. A standalone moment the attendee can consciously register. So first and foremost, you want to know whether like there's actually one of those beliefs being addressed, be it identity, urgency, or risk. And then you want to know whether it was done before the pitch came in, before your sale or your offer did come in. And I could even add a third one over here. Like make sure it's at least 5 minutes long. At least that. All right, so let's answer your question the shortest way possible. So why did they say no? And here is the real reason and what changes next. So it's not the offer, right? That's what you want to know first. It is definitely not the offer. So you stop treating the pitch as the persuasion problem and start treating it as a belief removal problem. That's where the shift really happens. So the phase isn't a better close, right? It is identifying which belief is most common among the exact audience being pitched and dismantling it deliberately before asking for anything. All right. So here we come to the end of this webinar. So you already know which belief is blocking your close. We can help you name it more clearly or name it together. So this webinar gave you a real diagnosis, but we also offer you a free 15-minute call, discovery call, where we like to look into your business personally, hear your case and hear your situation and see how best we can provide a quick possible offer, right? A quick possible solution that will do help. And we look forward to reaching out. So make sure you check the link in the description for this webinar. I think it will really be very useful to you. Thank you once again for being a part of it. We'll catch up in the webinar number 5 of this series. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye and enjoy the rest of your day.